It is the middle of June already, if you can believe it, and we're coming up to the midway point of 2019. This is a great time to start looking at doing a mid-year review of your fundraising and communications plan, which is what I want to talk about here in today's video. My name is Vanessa Lockshin, and I'm the president of the Storytelling Nonprofit, and welcome back to my YouTube channel for another tutorial. Before we hop on over to the questions and the format that I love to use for mid-year reviews, I want to let you know I have a special giveaway that's going to happen at the very end of the video, so stay tuned for that. A lot of reasons why I love doing reviews. If you've ever been on webinars with me, you probably heard me talk about the value of reflection and kind of reviewing what's happened in fundraising and communications programs. And I think there's a lot of insight to be gleaned for us when we take the time to really look at what's happened and use that data to inform where we're going next. I always think the mid-year point in the calendar year is a great time to do a review. If you work on a calendar year basis, you're about halfway through your plan and your budget year. But for some of you, June is actually the end of your fiscal year. And so now is also a great time to be doing that kind of end of year review. And what I want to share with you today is a format you can use for either a mid-year review or even a whole year annual review. So what I'm going to do is pop on over to some questions and format to give you some structure to do your own review at your organization. All right, so here we are over in our mid-year review that we're going to take a look at. As I said, this is a format you can use for fundraising or communications. They're very broad questions that you can apply to various aspects of your work. So I divide my review into two parts. One is sort of reviewing what happened, and then the second part is actually forward planning and thinking about where are we going next? So let's go ahead and take a look at both of these pieces. So the first question I have for you is, what goal or goals did you set at the beginning of the year? So this is a great time to just go back and look at what did we originally say we were going to do this year. If you have a fundraising or communications plan that you put together, that's a great place to start to look at what you said you were going to do and take a look at why you set those goals. I also like to look at that question of why did we set this goal, just to kind of go back to the original intention behind the work that we wanted to do and really think about, is that still aligned with where we're going? So once you get a chance to just check in with that original goal or goals that you may have set, let's talk about the next piece, which is what milestones have you reached so far? So this is about looking at your progress towards your goals. Now, in some planning process, you may have actually set some milestones or some metrics for yourself to track your goal progress, which is great. And if not, this is a perfect time to look at what progress have you made and how can you tell you've made that progress. So for things like fundraising, sometimes it's very clear cut, where you can look at the amount of money raised in this year so far. In communications, you might look at audience growth or things of that nature. But this is a really good time to just celebrate your progress. I don't think we do that enough in our work. And so I would encourage you to just take some time to look at your progress and really give yourself a pat on the back. Even if you feel like you haven't done as much work as you've wanted to, you've still made progress. And that's something really important that we should celebrate in our work. So another question I like to ask, and this is where we can dive into the data and the progress a little bit more, is do you have any data that relates to your goals that can be reviewed? So perhaps you have a metrics spreadsheet you keep track of. Maybe you have other places like a database or something of that nature where you have very quantifiable data that can help you take a look at your goals and your progress. And this can be a really big process going into the data, but I find that this is a really helpful piece to just kind of dig into a little bit more, look at your more nuanced metrics. Especially if this is something you're not doing on a monthly basis, this is a great opportunity to just check in and see what's going on, and to really ask, are there any problem areas, any holes that need to be plugged, anything that we could be doing differently based on what our numbers are telling us. All right, and so the last set of questions I have, and this is kind of the big reflection set, I would say, is to look at the data, look at your milestones, and ask yourself a couple of questions. And these are more kind of personal reflection questions about your work so far. So thinking about the last 6 months, or if you're doing this on an annual basis, the last year, here are a few questions I like to use. So what's gone well? What was hard? What did not go well? And what has surprised you? I find these 4 questions are really revealing. They really help us kind of identify what's going smoothly in our work, what's been a challenge, what's been a really big time suck or something that's just been hard for us to execute as an organization or maybe an individual. I really like the question of what surprised you because sometimes we don't think about like what was really interesting or just caught us off guard maybe in our program. And I think that that sometimes can be really a fascinating question to explore. So I would encourage you to look at these questions, give yourself some time, maybe, set a timer, grab a cup of tea, and give yourself like 20 or 30 minutes to really mull over these questions and do yourself the favor of kind of diving into this review a little. All right, so those are the 4 questions I like to use for a review. It's really simple and straightforward, and I don't feel like a review has to be overly complicated. So I hope that that gives you a little bit more confidence to go through a process like this on your own. What I'd like to do next is give you a couple of questions for forward thinking and planning. So we could do a whole other video on planning for the second half of the year. And if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments below, and we can always do a follow-up tutorial on that. But here are just some preliminary questions that I think are useful to ask in this context of doing a review. So first, do you need to adjust your goals or metrics? I think this is such a good question to ask. Sometimes we're so inflexible with the goals that we set, almost to our detriment in our fundraising and communications programs. And I want to say that I think there's real value in adjusting course if that needs to happen. So maybe you realize that you set a goal that was way too ambitious, or maybe a goal that wasn't ambitious enough. Or maybe there's just something else that's better for you to measure this year or better for you to work towards given what you've seen so far. This is a really valuable thing to think about and consider. I'm not saying you have to adjust them, but I just want to give you this opportunity to pause and think about, is this something we could do? Is this something that's worth our while? So whether or not you decide to adjust your goals, another question that I think is helpful is to ask what needs to happen in order for you to reach your goals. So this is thinking about what kind of priority projects need to happen. Tactically, what do you need to do, in the next 6 months? And really kind of making a laundry list so you could start some project planning and project management for yourself. This might be really clear for you about what needs to happen. If you're running a major gifts program, you might think, oh, I need to get out this number of asks before the end of the year, have this number of new prospects in our pipeline. If you're running a communications program, it might be something like, oh, we need to execute this communications campaign before the end of the year. Maybe you're working on a new branding initiative, something like that. So you may have some really clear ideas of what those projects are, but I would encourage you to just take some time to think about what needs to happen realistically in order for you to reach these goals. And I would say the sister question to this that I think is really helpful to ask yourself is, what resources do I need to make it happen? I love asking this question for a lot of reasons. I think this question about being well-resourced is really valuable for us to think about. And I want to just also add the caveat that when I say resources, I don't just mean like the budget resources that you need to execute it. I also mean, the education, the professional development, the emotional support, the mentorship that you may need. I really like to think about being resourced as more of this holistic concept. And I think in the context of us planning, reviewing, thinking about what's gone well and what hasn't, it's really helpful to also think about what resources or support was I missing in order for me to really make progress on something. This is a great time of year to evaluate this and to think about, is there some way I can get myself the resources I need? Can I connect with a peer at another organization to kind of do some peer mentorship? Do I need to really seek out some volunteers that have certain expertise or engage, other staff within our organization to support a particular project? Think about what it is that would be really helpful for you at this point, that will make your life maybe a little easier, maybe make work a little smoother, but maybe also just make it easier to reach some of these goals that you have, and hopefully be a much more satisfying process overall. So that is my review format that I wanted to share with you today. I hope this was helpful in giving you some ideas about how you can go about doing a review for your organization. Now, if you were tuning in at the beginning, I mentioned that I have a little giveaway that I'm doing today. And so I want to tell you about that. So what I'm doing this week in our video is giving away a copy of my book and one of our notebooks, which says Stories and Inspiration on it. So hopefully you can see both of those. So if you're interested in entering this giveaway, all you need to do is, one, leave a comment below and let me know, are you planning to do a review this year? So you can just let me know in the comments below this video. And I would also love for you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, so you can hit the subscribe button. This giveaway is open from Monday, June 24th until Friday, June 28th at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I'll be announcing a winner on Tuesday, July 2nd. Good luck.